Hi and welcome to True Crimes and Mysteries. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the Sodder family mystery. This tragic event unfolds in Fayetteville, West Virginia, where George and Jenny Sodder lived with their 9 children. It was Christmas Eve in 1945 when a fire struck the Sodder home, leaving a devastating aftermath. George, Jenny, and 4 of their children managed to escape the flames, but 5 of their children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, were presumed to have died in the fire. Earlier that day, the oldest daughter, Marian, aged 19, had been working in a store and returned home with some gifts to surprise 3 of her younger siblings: Martha, who was 12, Jenny, who was 8, and Betty, who was 5. The kids were so excited about their new toys that they asked if they could stay up a little later than usual to play. It was around 10 p.m. Jenny told them that they could stay up a little later, as long as 2 of the older boys were still awake. The 2 older boys were Maurice, who was 14, and his brother Louis, who was 9. George and the 2 oldest boys, John, who was 22, and George Jr., who was 16, had worked all day and were already asleep. Jenny took Sylvia, who was only 2 years old, upstairs with her, and they went to bed. The phone rang 30 minutes after midnight. Jenny woke up and went downstairs to answer it. The person on the phone was a woman that Jenny didn't recognize. The woman asked for someone with a name Jenny did not know. With the sound of laughter and clinking glasses in the background, Jenny told the woman this was the wrong number. Jenny would later remember the woman's weird laugh. She hung up and returned to bed. As she did, she noticed that the lights were still on and the curtains were not drawn. 2 of the things the children normally did when they stayed up later than their parents. Marian had fallen asleep on the living room couch, so Jenny assumed that the other children who had stayed up late had gone back to the attic and were asleep. At 1 a.m., Jenny woke up again, this time by the sound of an object hitting the roof of the house with a loud bang, and then a rolling noise. However, she quickly went back to sleep. After 30 minutes, she woke up again, this time smelling smoke. She discovered that the house was on fire. The fire was at first mainly in George's office and around the telephone line and fuse box. She woke up George and the 2 oldest sons. Jenny and George escaped the fire together with their 4 children, Marian, Sylvia, John, and George Jr. They tried to wake the rest of the children who were sleeping in the attic, but they couldn't get any response while shouting to them. Because of the fire, it was impossible to access the attic. The phone did not work, so the family could not call the fire department. Marian had to run to the closest neighbor to use their phone. A driver on a nearby road had also seen the flames and called from a nearby tavern. However, both calls were unsuccessful. None of them could reach the operator. It took a 3rd try from another phone in the center of town to actually reach the fire department. During all the struggles, George tried to climb up barefoot to the attic from the outside of the house. During this attempt, he hurt his arm. He and his sons wanted to use the ladder to climb up, but the ladder was mysteriously missing from its normal place and could not be found. A water barrel that could have been used to extinguish the fire was frozen solid and could not be used. George then tried to pull both of the trucks he used in his business up to the house and used them to climb to the attic window, but neither of them would start despite having worked perfectly during the previous day. This was all very suspicious. With frustration, the Sodders, who had escaped the fire, had no choice but to watch their house burn down and collapse over the next 45 minutes. The cause was officially blamed on faulty wiring, but there were many questions left unanswered. Witnesses reported seeing strange lights near the house before the fire, and the family had not experienced any electrical issues before. This fueled suspicion that the fire might have been set on purpose. The absence of human remains added another layer to the mystery. Despite a thorough search, no trace of the missing children was found in the ashes. Bones are normally left after a fire, even at high temperatures. The lack of such evidence sparkled theories that the children might not have been in the house at the time of the fire. The Sodders never accepted the official explanation, and over the years they tirelessly fought for answers. The Sodders never rebuilt their house. Instead, they converted the site into a memorial garden to their lost children. They erected a billboard near their home with pictures of the missing children and a plea for information. The billboard became a symbol of the enduring mystery. George had actually been threatened before the fire by a salesman. The salesman said that his house would burn because of some anti-Mussolini comments George had made. There were also questions about the faulty wiring theory. If this was the case, how come the family's Christmas lights did still work? And why did the missing ladder end up being found at the bottom of an embankment? A telephone repairman told the Sodders that the house's phone line had not been burned through in the fire, as they had initially thought, but cut by someone who had been willing and able to climb 4.3 meters up on the pole. A man whom neighbors had seen stealing a block and tackle from the property around the time of the fire was identified and arrested. He admitted to the theft and claimed he had been the one who cut the phone line, thinking it was a power line, but denied having anything to do with the fire. There were reports from people who claimed to have seen the missing Sodder children in various locations, but none of these leads led to anything. The family received anonymous letters suggesting that the children were alive and well, but these were never traced back to a credible source. In 1967, a mysterious photograph arrived in the Sodders' mailbox. The image supposedly showed Louis Sodder, one of the missing children, now grown up. While the photo brought a glimmer of hope, its origin remained unknown, leaving the family with more questions than answers. As the years passed, the Sodder family clung to the belief that their missing children were still alive. The fire and its aftermath became an unsolved puzzle, with theories ranging from abduction to witness protection. The Sodder case remains unsolved, leaving a haunting legacy of questions and speculations. The mystery of the missing Sodder children is one of the most perplexed and heart-wrenching true crime tale in American history. This was all for today. Take care of each other and see you next time.